Oz Perkins' The Monkey is an enjoyable entry into his growing body of work, but it's not without its flaws. Perkins once again demonstrates his knack for tone and genre mixing, but as with his previous film Longlegs, the ending feels a bit underwhelming. It's not so much of a sour note as it is a bland one, leaving me wishing for more of a payoff. And just to be clear, I will kind of be mildly spoiling parts of this movie, so if you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out and then come back to this video. The Monkey is a darkly comedic horror film that blends bizarre humor with gruesome spectacle. At its heart, it's a story about family, guilt, and the chaos that ensues when forces beyond human control are unleashed. The plot follows two estranged brothers who are brought back together by the mysterious reappearance of a cursed object from their past, a seemingly innocuous toy monkey that triggers a series of bizarre and deadly events whenever its key is wound. Set against a backdrop of absurdity and carnage, the story explores themes of inevitability, loss, and reconciliation. With a tone reminiscent of campy 80s horror films and a sharp sense of dark humor, The Monkey delivers a unique mix of chills, laughs, and surprising emotional depth. It's a chaotic, quirky exploration of how people deal with forces they cannot fully control, and how those forces reshape their lives. This movie is undeniably polarizing. Interestingly, it seems to resonate more with people who didn't enjoy Perkins' last film Longlegs, myself included, while those who appreciated that film might be more critical of The Monkey. And I want to get something out of the way. Calling this a horror film feels like a bit of a stretch. While there's plenty of bloody gore, the scares are honestly pretty minimal, with most of the deaths played for laughs. This isn't a movie designed to terrify you. Honestly, it's one that revels in absurdity and dark humor. And also, that being said, this movie is oddly quotable. The dialogue is quirky and front and center, not simply serving as exposition, but as an essential part of the movie's charm. And that also is to say that it's not going to work for everyone. Lines like, "I want you to know we're going to do our very best with you boys," it's just that our very best might be pretty bad, stand out as memorable moments of dark humor. It's rare to see these sort of high-concept horror comedies so intentionally designed around their dialogue. The Monkey feels a bit like an homage to low to medium budget horror movies of the 1980s, particularly those with deadpan, camp, and black humor. It brings to mind films like Children of the Corn, Gremlins, Christine, Graveyard Shift, The Blob, Reanimator, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Night of the Comet. This era of horror wasn't about grand sweeping themes, but weird, isolated horrors that often balance gore, humor, and occasional allegorical depth. And Perkins channels that spirit here, crafting a film that's confident in its weirdness and unapologetically absurd. The movie's commitment to weird bullshit, and I mean that as a compliment, is impressive. There are a few moments that stuck out to me. For instance, the monkey's organic bleeding innards that are shown when it's being chopped up in the first act. It's never really explained, and it adds to that unsettling layer to the creature. And also, once again, spoiler alert at the beginning, but the pale horse with death riding on its back, it feels operatic in its absurdity, and it was a bold, wild visual that showed that the film wasn't afraid to go all in. I actually, frankly, loved this ending. I saw some people criticizing it, but in my mind, I was like, I had this thought in the finale, which was that introducing the four horsemen of the apocalypse would have been an incredible way to end this movie. It reminded me of like Kevin Smith's original ending for his movie Red State, where the apocalypse literally unfolds at the hand of the four horsemen, but budget constraints kept that from happening. And here, it was a really kind of powerful note to end on. I've heard some people online say that this movie isn't quote unquote deep, but I will say that the movie brushes up against some interesting ideas about death and how we learn to grapple with it and its inevitability. At its core, it's about the ways in which we try and fail to control or avoid death. Hal, the character that we spend the most time with throughout the film, struggles with the randomness and inevitability of death. And the two twins represent the different responses to mortality. One runs from it, consumed by fear, while the other worships it, believing that it can be controlled. And also, an important note is that the monkey itself isn't evil. It's just a tool. It's like a gun. It doesn't kill people. It's the people turning the key that are responsible. This notion ties into the film's broader meditation on death as this chaotic and impartial energy. The final scene where Hal and his son Petey drive through a crumbling town feels emblematic of how we all live our lives, moving forward even as chaos surrounds us. It's a kind of poignant moment in a film that balances absurdity with genuine thoughtfulness. And while I'm on the subject, I actually want to circle back and talk about another thing that was like quietly and subtly poignant about this movie. In the first act of the film, we have the twins as children, and right after their mother dies, played wonderfully by Tatiana Maslany. At one point, Bill, the more rambunctious and evil of the twins, he is still wearing his funeral outfit, and his brother says, "Why don't you take that off?" And he says, "I'm just going to have to put it back on again." I actually kind of like really felt that in my soul, just like the sort of resignation at the idea that death is an inevitability and we're all going to have to go through it and experience it, and our loved ones are all going to die. It was really something that was truly absurd, but also really kind of hit me in the gut a little bit. And I just want to talk about the tone and style of this movie. Perkins's control of the tone is kind of masterful here. And again, it's not going to work for everyone, but he blends horror, comedy, and absurdity in a way that feels uniquely his. And I'm saying that as someone who hasn't been a fan of his up until now. While the film doesn't ramp up in the traditional sense, plateauing pretty early and maintaining its trajectory, it's confident in what it wants to do. The vibe of this movie is somewhere between Final Destination and that Goosebumps story, Say Cheese and Die, with a mix of deadpan humor and macabre fun. And just to reiterate, it's not particularly scary, but it was kind of a blast to watch, and I wish I had seen it with a more full theater, because even the scattered crowd that I saw it with, they were laughing quite a bit. So just wrapping this all up, for fans of absurd, campy horror comedies with a touch of thematic depth, The Monkey honestly delivers. With some fun death scenes that were unfortunately spoiled in the marketing of this movie, some memorable dialogue, and a willingness to embrace its weirdness, it's a film that stands out, even if it doesn't necessarily stick the landing for everyone, myself included. It's not perfect, but it's absolutely my kind of movie, and I definitely recommend you checking it out. But what did you guys think? Let me know down in the comments if you saw The Monkey, if you are a fan of Oz Perkins and his sort of run that he's on right now, with Longlegs being a success, with this movie seemingly about to be a success. What do you guys think of his work, and are you excited for his work in the future? Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to be notified when new videos are out on this channel, and I'll see you all next time.